You coming on? I forgot
I
about
don't
Randy.
know. I don't.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our debut episode. I'm here with Amber Riley, and it's you go ahead and give the title. It's your signature tagline. I'm going to let you go ahead. I'm gonna also check and see if we got Randy coming on.
So it is tips and tricks of how to look good naked. And what was the second part of it? That's your
And how to love yourself, and why, and how to love yourself even if you don't.
right.
So that's my tagline. So we're gonna start. We were hoping to have Randy on, and he may be hopping on. We're gonna check and see. But so I'm gonna let you take the floor and take the lead and tell us about step number one. It's 7 steps, and we're going to start with step number one. I'm going to interject as we go along and talk about mindset and what to do in those regards, but you take the floor.
So the first step is breathe. And anytime I tell people that step, they're like, well, I do that on a daily basis. And I'm like, no, it's really more complicated than that. So when we're trying to lose weight and we're trying to look good, what we're doing is we're activating our endocrine system. So the drinking the water, the eating right, the working out, all of that's helping our endocrine system. But we also have a central nervous system. So for everything else to flow and for all of the pieces inside of us to work properly, we need to work on the central nervous system. So breath work is a huge part of it. There is actually a free breath work class that people can attend if they can they DM me, or how would they go about doing that, and I can give them the link for that.
Yeah, sure. They can connect with you on Facebook. They can even put it in the comments. I got to switch to comments, see if we have any comments. See if they can put it in the comments. They can, yeah, however they want to do it.
Yeah, so it's a free breathing class on Tuesday. It lasts about 45 minutes.
They can hook up with you on Instagram, preferred method.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then breath work, it's just really about allowing your body to do the process. Like if we're constantly on the go, we got our cortisol spiked, and then all of our other hormones are not going to be acting properly. So they're not going to be balanced. And in reality, when we're trying to lose weight, we actually don't lose weight while we're in the gym. We don't lose weight when we're doing the things. We lose weight when we go to sleep at night. So the first step is breath work. There is several, you don't have to go to the breathing class I'm talking about. There's actually several breathing things that you can get on YouTube. There's Wim Hof. Joe Dispenza's got some very good ones. They don't have to be 45 minutes. It can be a 5-minute practice.
So can you hear me? Are
You're freezing up occasionally, but yeah, I can hear you.
Are you having internet problems, or am I? Okay.
I'm not freezing up, but
because you keep freezing. But I don't know if I have a good.
Oh
yeah, I think it's. Do you see me freezing?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think it's me. Okay, so you go on. You carry the show. I'm going to try to fix my internet connection.
Okay. So are we going to go through all 7 steps?
No, I think. What do you want? Do you just want to concentrate on step number 1, and let's talk about it? And I think to really get to step number 1, you talk about the breathing, but I think that too we need to talk about the mindset and even how to get into your frame of mind to even start any step.
I agree. So mindset is crucial. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, well, I've tried this in the past, I've tried that, it's just not going to work, or I'm big boned type person, I've always been big, and I don't know about you, but I've never seen a fat skeleton. So we have this mindset, these limiting beliefs that we learned from those ages of 1 to 7 when we just kind of soak up everything like a sponge. or it's events that have happened in our life, the stories or the meanings that we give to that event. So we went through a diet, it didn't work, so I'm never going to lose weight, or I just can't get there. I'm, like I said, I'm just a big bone person. So mindset is crucial. And then the other thing that really gets to our mindset is what I like to call the goop, which is the good opinion of other people. So have you ever had like a great idea and you go tell a friend or a loved one, they're like, well, that's not going to work. So you don't do anything about it. You don't take action. And 6 months later, somebody else has that great idea and it's a huge success. So it's no different when you go to lose weight. Someone tells you, well, you tried that before and that's not going to work. Or, our family, we're just predisposed to be overweight. So mindset is crucial. The breath work helps with the mindset for sure. So just recalibrating the way we think. Everybody has unlimited potential. So the difference between two people with the same unlimited potential is simply that the actions they take. And the actions they take are going to be predicated based on their belief system. So we have to focus on the beliefs. We've got to get our mindset straight and think positive. I know it sounds kind of naive to think all you have to do is think positive thoughts, but it's not really all about just positive thought. It's about empowering yourself. So rewriting the narrative for those stories that have happened to you that, I didn't lose the weight, or I'll never lose the weight. I was unsuccessful. Rewrite that story. It didn't work. I didn't try a technique that was effective for me. If it doesn't work, I assure you there's another technique out there. And just because a diet or a program works for one person doesn't mean that same program is going to work for another person. That goes to exercise as well. So mindset is crucial. And the breath work really helps kind of ground the mindset. So do we have any questions? Hey, Amos. Okay. Well, we'll move on. I'm going to run through all of the 7 steps and then we'll go back to the breathing. So the second step is hydration. Everybody knows that water is crucial. It is the main component of what removes all toxins from every cell in our body. So we have to hydrate. And when I say hydrate, I don't mean hydrate with tea or lemonade or any, although they're made with water, it just doesn't count. So we need to hydrate. The third step is nourish. We have to nourish with good food. And when I say good food, what I really mean is if you follow the JERF diet, which just means just eat real food. Like if it doesn't grow from a plant, come out of the ground or off an animal, then you shouldn't be eating it. It's just bottom line. The fourth step is detox. So detox, declutter, cleanse your system, get rid of all the foods that are not real food, that are toxifying your system. Because when we eat foods that are unrecognizable to our body, what happens is it makes all of the other organs in our body work overtime. So they're not only having to digest that food that you just ate, but they're having to work overtime to eliminate that toxin because it just doesn't serve any point in the human body. So we've got to eliminate that food. And when it comes to detox, decluttering, that also goes for not just food, but it goes for, cleansing or removing toxic relationships from your life that are going to bring your energy down and possibly zap your mindset, because it all goes back to mindset. Decluttering your spaces. Your outside world is an indication of your inside world. So if your outside world is cluttered, your inside world is going to be chaos as well. And then the 6th step is rest and sleep. So what I was referring to earlier is we actually don't lose weight in the gym. We don't lose weight when we're we don't lose weight when we are exercising, when we're eating right, when we're doing all the things. That's actually not when we lose weight. We lose weight when we go to sleep at night. That's when all of our hormones assimilate and everything gets balanced and starts working properly. It's also when our bodies are able to actually do more of the job because they're not focusing on digesting food. And then the 7th step, I was just running through the 7 steps since you had some problems. The 7th step is community. So how many of you have started a new diet and you're gung-ho about it, you're super excited, and you go tell somebody and they're like, well, that's stupid, or why can't you just eat this? It's just one piece. So it only takes one bad apple to bring the whole apple crop down. So we've got to surround ourselves with people that are on the same initiative as us. If you don't have that community of people that can support you and you can tell them when things are going wrong, maybe they can give you a simple solution, or tell them, celebrate your wins, because we've got to make small goals so that it's not this lofty, huge goal of I want to lose 50 pounds. It's got to be something attainable. So I'm going to lose 5 pounds a week. and then celebrate it. Now, don't celebrate it with a cake or something you're trying to eliminate, but celebrate your small wins so that it's not such an arduous process.
Agree. Well, I agree, even though I don't know really what you said.
So I was just going over the 7 steps, which is breathing, hydration, nourish, which is food, detox, which is eliminating the bad stuff, rest and sleep, and then community.
Perfect. So I can't see the comments tonight, so I don't know if you can see them from your computer.
Justin says, bad relationships brings your energy down, most definitely. You're absolutely right. It does. I recently actually terminated 3 pretty lengthy friendships that have been over a decade. And I was hesitant when I did so because, like I said, I've been friends with them for over 10 years. But in the weeks that followed, what I found is that my energy was raised. I didn't have that irritation when I looked at my phone and they were calling and, you're like, oh, God, I don't want to answer that. And then what I've also realized is that we kind of have this fixed mindset. So the universe can't bring us other people that are going to serve our higher self and help us on our journey if we have other people already filling those spots. So we've got to eliminate the room for the universe to bring us those people.
I totally agree with that. I think that they take such a toll, and that's exactly right. And I think that that's true of anything in your life. If you're holding on to the negative and unhealthy behaviors or negativity, you can't make room for positivity or healthy behaviors. Because you're only, and this is part of the mindset piece. I mean, your brain can only retain 7 pieces of information plus or minus, not retain, but act upon that at any given time. So, I forget the exact statistic, but I believe we process 135 million bits of information in the course of, and I don't know if it's in the day but out of those 135 million, your brain can only process and actively engage with 7 plus or minus. So think about that. I mean, and I've also read and I've heard it many times that you're a reflection of the 5 closest people to you. So
that is dead on accurate. So think about it. If you're hanging out with 5 people that are overweight, what's the chances of you being overweight? Because what's the chances of you adopting their same habits? And likely they have some poor habits that have led to their weight loss that way. So I also believe that your paycheck is also a reflection of your 5 closest friends.
You're probably true. You're probably right on that. And I want to speak.
Exercises help it all. Absolutely, Justin. So when you're doing a plank, you're actually similar to a push-up. You're targeting your primarily your core muscles, but during a plank, you're also targeting your shoulder muscles, somewhat of your legs, a little bit of your glutes, but primarily your core. And the core is the one thing that we want to stabilize because, believe it or not, I know some people that have had babies would probably know this, but you don't realize how much you use that core until it's been injured. So I'm talking to brush your teeth, to get out of bed. I mean, everything uses your core. So planking is very, very good. And I would recommend, even if you can only do a minute plank, a couple of minutes a day, perfect. Of course, it does that hopefully. Core strength exercise. So I assume you're wanting that 6-pack ab, Justin. Is that what you're meaning when you say core strength exercise? Does that help for losing weight? It does. But I can promise you that you are not going to see those 6-pack abs until you actually lower your body fat percentage. So it is impossible to spot train. I have people tell me, I want great arms, or I want that 6-pack ab. You just can't do it. It's impossible. You cannot spot train. You have to lower your overall body fat percentage.
Sam, but let's talk about the breathing. And Justin, we love you, and I can't see the comments, but I know that Justin probably put in 100 comments, and we can. And Justin, we're going to try to get to all of those, but remember that we really want to cover the content too. We want to talk about the breathing, and we want to talk about. I also want to go back to what you said earlier when you said when we're talking about the people around you. And I think that oftentimes the people closest to us, when we begin to change and adopt healthier lifestyles, it makes other people uncomfortable. And oftentimes they try to sabotage that. They'll give comments, are you sure you just can't have a bite? Are you sure you can't go to dinner? You can't go to this party? And I think that that's really what happens and undermines some of those relationships as well. And I've seen it many, many times. And that's why sometimes friendships fall off. You would hope that the people closest to you would be happy for you, but it really shines a spotlight on their deficits, especially when they're not willing to come along on the journey with you.
I totally agree with the mindset around the people that you're with, because that's what it's all about. We've got to keep our mindset powerful, and the people around you are possibly going to bring that in. But when it comes to the breathing, let me just give you my own personal story. So for 30 years, actually, I was on an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety. When I was introduced to these 7 steps, my health coach, and I actually have a health coach, when she told me about it, I'm like, well, I breathe every day. I do this stuff already. So I started taking her breathing classes. And I will tell you that in 4 short months, I was able to come off of 3 antidepressants, an anti-anxiety, and my ADHD medicine. So I'm completely medication free. And it all trickled down from the breathing exercises. So it really helps you get in touch with your energy sources. It helps. I've had a lot of clients that before doing the breathing, they suffer from a lot of aches and pains. I had one client that was in the hospital like at least once a month, and she had multiple diseases, or whatever you want to call it, fibromyalgia, high blood pressure, you name it. And when she started doing these breathing exercises, she not only was able to come off her medication, but she started releasing weight. And she wasn't even like doing active exercises. She wasn't necessarily watching what she was eating, but her body was able to release the weight because she was releasing all of that stress. Everything that happens to us in our life, guys, whether it's a bad comment, a horrible situation, gets stored in our body on a cellular level. Okay. It's undeniable. You can't pop a pill to get rid of it. It gets stored at a cellular level. The only thing that gets rid of that is breath work. That's the only thing. Our bodies actually have like an ancient wisdom of how to heal. Sorry about that. Of how to heal from traumatic events without necessarily popping a pill. We've been around for hundreds of thousands of years. So there's obviously something that we can do. We've only been using medication for the past 50 to 100 years. So the breath work is where it all lies. It's the central. It is your central nervous system. Nothing operates without your central. Your endocrine system, the working out. None of that works without your central nervous system, without the breathing.
So let's talk about it. I mean, what does that entail? I mean, how often do you do the exercises? And what's an example? Is there one exercise or numerous exercises, or is it a one size fits all? Or and then can you get and demonstrate how that would work for the listeners? I mean, I know Randy's not on, and we said Randy was going to be our test subject. He probably worked overnight, but he always watches the shows. He's definitely going to watch it later. So I want to give him the guidance he'll need.
So the breathing exercises, there's various different ones. The one that I participate in every week it lasts about 40 minutes. And what she does is she walks you through your 7 chakras. So your 7 energy sources within your body starts with the root chakra, goes up to the top to your crown chakra. And while she's walking you through that, she's also giving you affirmations that you should repeat that are identified or targeted to that chakra. And while you're doing it, it's actually a practice called TRE, trauma release exercises. So you're going to bend your knees and bring them up to where they're kind of open, and then they start actually convulsing. And that is your body's ancient wisdom of getting rid of cellular trauma, is your body convulsing. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't need a pill. Now, there are various other ones that you can look up on YouTube. Like I said, Wim Hof is a good one. He's got very short ones. Joe Dispenza has got a couple 10 or 15-minute ones. I would just go onto YouTube and look up breathing exercises. You could even look up trauma release exercises, although you don't have to go that deep. Just go into breathing. Now, if you want something really quick, there's I've got a lot of clients that have anxiety problems. And so if they call me, I walk them through a simple breathing exercises, which you breathe in for 6 seconds. You're going to hold for 7 seconds. And then you're going to breathe out through your mouth for 8 seconds. So, And when you're breathing out through your mouth, you're going to blow out like you're blowing through a straw. So what that does, so the breathing in is relaxing the body. The time that you're holding your breath, you're actually going to trigger your the polyvagal theory. So your vagus nerve, which runs throughout your body, it's your main calming center, your vagus nerve. So by holding your breath for 7 seconds, you're going to initiate the vagus nerve, and then by blowing out, you're releasing all of that cellular trauma. So it's real easy. Count, breathe in for 6 seconds, hold for 7, breathe out for 8 seconds, and do that 3 or 4 rounds. And I promise you, you will feel good as new.
And how many times a day, Amber? I don't know if you said that, but
you know, I would say let's say you're going to start with like 5 minutes, maybe do it 2-3 times a day. It's also something that can be done as needed. So if you feel your body tensing up, you're getting anxious, you're nervous, that's when you do the breathing exercises. I do try to do those at least 5 minutes every morning. So I do it generally when I'm doing my meditation, and it's just kind of a way to start my day. Now, realistically, just kind of like exercises, if you're going to do a full 10 or 20 minute breathing exercise, if you were going to start working out, you wouldn't just do it once a week, right? Because it's not very effective that way. You would do it probably 3 or 4 times a week. So if you're really going to dedicate that 10 or 20 minutes to it, I would do it 3 times a week. But I would start out small. Don't make any big lofty plans because you won't stick with it. Start out small, 5 minutes, and then just go on YouTube or go on the internet and Google 5-minute breath work activity or exercises. I promise you they're out there.
And I think, Joe Dispenza is great at so many things. I mean, his videos, if anybody's looking for motivation. And I want to talk about that. How do we get into the right mindset if you don't feel as if you're even ready to start that journey? And I also, there are 2 things I want to talk about. And you mentioned a morning routine. I think the morning routine is probably one of the most beneficial things you can have in your life. If you set your day in a positive intention, and we can talk about our morning routines, mine's, I'll speak about mine. So most mornings, I really try to start from a place of gratitude. I like to concentrate on gratitude for 2 minutes. And there's also, this is something that another coach had spoken to me about. If you wake up in the middle of the night, if you sit there, for people who have a difficult time sleeping, if you concentrate on gratitude for 2 to 5 minutes, most of the time that will help you lull you back to sleep. I know it's.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, and I have tried it, and I think that I was skeptical of it, but it has been beneficial for me. So I try to practice gratitude, remember what I'm grateful for. I try to, and that may also be a form of meditation. I also try to incorporate some type of exercise. I either work out with my sister or try to get a walk in. And most of the time during this, particularly in the walk, I listen to a motivational video. And really, Motiversity is great on YouTube, and they have so many different speakers, Les Brown and David Goggins, and there's so many that I like. So that's my typical morning routine, and I think if you set your day with a positive start, it's really going to trickle throughout the course of your day. And then, what's your morning routine? Let's talk about that.
So my morning routine is one of those things that nobody interferes with. Like I actually have a pretty lengthy morning routine. So my morning routine takes about 2, sometimes 3 hours. And I can do it in a shorter time period. I just prefer not to. But I actually read a book by Hal Elrod called The Miracle Morning. I don't know if anybody's ever read that, but he has an acronym called SAVERS, as far as the steps to follow. So what that stands for is S is silence, meditation is what he meant, but Mavers didn't really go well. So he named it Savers. Affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. So I actually follow, you don't have to do them in that order. And you don't have to do all of them for a lengthy period of time. You could do each of them for 5 minutes if you chose to. So I actually follow that. And when I adopted that program into my life, it was a game changer for me. It was incredible. I mean, I've always been a pretty productive person, but it felt like I got more things done in my morning routine than what most people did all day. And when you've got that jump start, that positive vibe to start your day, it's amazing what you can accomplish. I mean, it truly is. I used to be, when I first started my health and fitness journey, I did not work out in the morning. I actually worked out after work. my theory was I already get up at 5:30 in the morning. What am I supposed to get up at 4:30 in the morning and exercise? So, and I did it religiously. I still worked out every day, but I did it after work. When I started incorporating exercise in my morning, it was a total game changer. It really gets your blood flowing, gets those endorphins going. It helps with your appetite the rest of the day. Especially if you can do I hesitant to say this because it's a tricky thing, but if you can do a workout on an empty stomach when you're basically fasting from the night before, you are going to burn more fat than you would typically was. Now, I caution you to do that because you could just fizzle out in the middle of your workout because you don't have that glycogen in your body to like give you that energy. So I caution you on that, but otherwise, I would definitely include working out in the morning. Even if it's 10 minutes, like a 10-minute walk, something that just gets your blood flowing, those endorphins pumping.
And I want to speak about, and I don't do all the savers, but I've certainly heard of them. And, I'm familiar with that book as well. But even if you don't do all of them, describing the journaling can be instrumental in any facet of your life. I mean, they say, and the research has said that for you to take the thoughts out of your head and put it on paper, I believe the statistic for that is that it's 10,000 times more effective if you take words out of your head and put them on paper.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I believe that's it. And that's one study, and I believe that came out of Australia. I'd have to find it to really recall the exact mark, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And I think that is true because you're taking that and you're transferring it to paper, and then you have it to reflect on. I'm not always great at that. Sometimes I'll text myself to really sit down. I'm not a great writer. I type much more quickly than I write, or I'll type something, but I don't do that obviously at 5 o'clock in the morning. But I do think that journaling is really a tool that can even link into that part that we spoke about. First of all, it's a great manifestation tool. I think I've manifested many things in my life, even with the vision boards. We've done that. So writing and journaling and vision boards really have been instrumental to me to really, and vision boards aren't magic, and we're not certainly suggesting that, but it really is a reflection, something for you to reflect on every day to move you towards your goals. No vision board is going to be effective without a plan and without some form of action. So
journaling for me has been huge. I will say that, especially if I'm going through an emotional time, I don't always want to share the thoughts that are in my head right away until I can sort them out and kind of make sense of them. So journaling for me has been a huge escape. Sometimes I don't even realize what the thoughts are in my head until I write them down. Now, I am a pen to paper person. I'm not a type, because I just don't type as fast as I can write. But I will say one thing that I would like to get better on is going back over my journals and reviewing them so that I can see the progress or the patterns of behavior that I'm going through. I think that's something critical that I'm missing out on.
I think so too. Well, not that, but I think that's a great record for people to reflect back on. And I think it also shows us how far you've come if you're making progress. And so let's talk about too, the ability, I think that for people, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week, is that sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. There's a difference between being motivated and disciplined. And when you don't feel motivated, you can make the decision to be disciplined. And I think, I can't speak for you, but there are many mornings I don't want to get out of bed, and I don't want to take a walk, and I don't want to, food prep and all of those things because I'm not motivated to do so. But I try to stay disciplined and get those things done. And I think that's
what you do it when you don't feel like it.
Well, I remind myself of why I'm doing it and what my purpose is. And I also, this is a hard one for me, and it's something that I've struggled with in my entire life. And it's not necessarily an affirmation, but I also remind myself that I'm worth it. I'm worth, a healthy body. I'm worth, because when I don't feel my best and I feel as if I don't look my best, it really hinders so many other parts of my life. I've spent so much time reflecting on how I look that it's robbed me of so many things. In the past, I wouldn't go to a party if I couldn't fit into my, my cutest pants or, something that made me feel attractive. But I think about it now, and I don't want anybody else to waste years of their lives worrying about what
they look like in their clothes, right? Because chances are they're not even paying attention to you. They're paying attention to what they look like and worried about what everybody else is thinking about them. I agree.
So, I think so many people, body image is so huge, and we're not saying don't make changes, don't make progress, but don't become obsessive about that. And I have been. There are periods in my life when I've been obsessive, and of course that's what led to the eating disorders in those parts of my life that I've really made progress in overcoming. So I hope that other listeners and viewers will do the same.
I don't think there's a female out there that hasn't gone through some body shaming and some body and I say females, and I don't mean to disclude the males, because I'm sure there is a large population of males that also have some body image problems. But I think by just the culture that we live in, from very young, girls are looking at the cover of magazines, which are all airbrushed, and they're thinking, I need to look like that. I know personally for me, so I have my first body image story, shaming story, when I was 14 years old. I was cheering on the cheerleading team. We were at practice and we were doing a stunt that involved the whole team. So we'd been practicing for about 20 minutes, and I was one of the flyers up in the air. And after about 20 minutes, the stunt came falling down. And so my coach started yelling a lot of things, but one of the things she was screaming was, "Amber, you're dead weight." Well, for me in the gymnasium, I felt like it echoed, like I heard it 3 times. So the day after that started my very first diet at 14 years old, which of course was a starvation diet, because, that's what works, right? I mean, if you want to lose weight, just don't eat. Needless to say, I spent the next 10 years of my life, maybe a little bit more than that, trying every diet and everything just so that I could not just fall. I didn't even care to fall in love. I just wanted to be proud of what I looked like. I didn't want to be ashamed. Not that I was necessarily really overweight, but we are our own worst critic. So I tried everything out there in the world. And then finally one day I had gotten a promotion. I was in my 30s and I'd gotten a promotion for my dream job. And I was going to be a therapist for the Department of Juvenile Justice. And I remember my girlfriends were going to take me out to drinks. And so I come home and I'm changing clothes, and I must have been on my 6th outfit at the time. And I'm like, why does nothing look right? And I just happened to pass a full-length mirror in between changing. And I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, that's why nothing looks right. I cannot believe you let your body get to this. So again, I wasn't necessarily obese, but it's our thoughts in our head. It's how we see ourselves. It's kind of like we would never say to anybody else the things that we say to ourselves. We have the worst self-talk. We would never talk to somebody else like that, but we say it to ourselves.
And I think that that's another great point. Internal dialogue is so important in the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And I think that until you start to reframe your dialogue and because the greatest relationship you're ever going to have is with yourself. And if you wouldn't speak to another person that way, why would you speak to yourself that way? And that's what happens. And sometimes I believe that even I have a similar story. I wasn't a cheerleader, but my first body shaming happened when I was in 8th grade. I don't remember how old I was, 13, 14 was very close in age. And, we used to have to get weighed in by the school nurse. And I remember, she was whispering the weights into the ears of the girls that she thought were heavy. And, and at the time, I believe I'll always remember the number 144. And that's really where I look best today. So it's comical to me now that, that weight and that number really was such a detriment to me, but it's so meaningful. And I think I look pretty hot at 144 today. So I don't typically shout out my weight, but certainly I think, and I'm sure now my body composition is much different than it was then. Now I have much more muscle and I'm probably taller than I was. So at the time, I don't look the same, but I think that number is always in the back of my mind. And I always consider 44 to be one of my lucky numbers now. And I think that is really, it's just such a number. It's a number. And I think that I'm so
I want to point out though, because what you did is you changed the narrative. You changed your own narrative. You changed the story that you have in your head. And that made all the difference in the world.
It did, but it took years to get there.
Sure.
Because then what happened was when I was labeled as the one of the heavy girls. I hate the word fat. I hate the word heavy, but and then really it became true. And then I was like, well, hey, and then I did have a weight issue for quite some time. So I think that that's really, and I think that speaks to, and I don't know if we have any teachers but what adults tell children. Really, you don't understand that you can really change the course of someone's life. I've seen it when children are told that they're not, when we're labeling anybody, I've heard children being told that they're not intelligent, or, they're the slowest kid in the gym class, and it just really, it's something that people carry into adulthood, and sometimes it becomes a life sentence. So if you're in a position of authority, or you're a parent, or anyone around children, I think that you should be mindful of that.
I agree. And I'd like to think that nobody does it intentionally, but I think just sometimes we slip and we just don't realize how powerful one little comment can be. And you're right, it can totally change the direction. I have a mentor who he wasn't going to go to college, and his guidance counselor told him, well, you might as well go get like a factory job, because you're never going to make any money. Either you go to college or you're never going to make any money. Just get a factory job. Well, he's a multimillionaire now, but for a while there, he let that one little comment from his guidance counselor stay in his head, just because he wasn't going to take the SAT or the ACT. So absolutely, it's critical, especially because we, as younger children, primarily from the ages of 1 to 7, but I would say up until we graduate high school, we lack the executive level functioning. We lack that prefrontal cortex that can run interference on the things that are told to us. So we just kind of soak up everything like a sponge, and we just accept it as it is. So a lot of the limiting beliefs that we have today, money doesn't grow on trees, takes money to make money, you know what I'm saying? You got to work hard to be successful. All that stuff came and was downloaded to us before we ever hit double digits, but we hold on to that and it let us affect us for the next 30 years.
True. And I think even as adults, let's talk about that for a second. I know we're kind of getting off our topic, but even as adults, and we hear so often, and particularly you and I, and well, many people, and I think even on the Coast to Coast Network, everybody says, follow your dreams, you work your passions, but, and I don't know if you know Scott Lumley, but I was speaking to Scott one day, and he's a millionaire, and he said, you can't necessarily, your dreams don't always necessarily make you money. Sometimes you have to have a day job too. And I think that people hear those things and they think to myself, well, it's working for everybody else. They're following their dreams. They're working their life and living at the job that they love. But that's not always the reality. And he said that he works his day job, which is, working with, selling parts or whatever he does, and, working with cars. And he said, that's not my passion, Joanne, but I use that success and those dollars to funnel my passion and fund my passion, which is to eradicate sex trafficking from the world. So I think that he has a great point. Sometimes you got to work the 9 to 5, and I've said it before, you have to work the 9 to 5 to fuel your passion until you're successful enough at your 5 to 9 to work. Now, I can't see the comments live, so I don't know if you want to pull some up. I know I saw a comment from Jason in the chat. We can't answer all Justin's comments, but
mostly Justin.
He had a great one. Chris, bring up Jason's comment, please. And I think that this speaks to men and exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, I agree. A number on a scale is definitely different for women versus men. I don't think it's necessarily different when you're talking about the size clothes you wear or the physique that you hold. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think men are as obsessed. Women, we like to weigh ourselves every day or, every week. But no, I don't think men obsess about it. But I do think they have their own measurement guide of how they judge their physique. I just don't have a lot of male clients, so I can't answer that.
So I'm looking at the comments and I can't come on. So the Coast to Coast Network, Chris, can you bring that up? When you don't always have the best body, I found that if you're funny helps too. So you're right. A sense of humor, I think, helps in any scenario in life. I love that comment. And it makes me laugh because I've had that conversation with someone from coast to coast behind the scenes before. So I do think that that's funny. And we certainly have a lot of funny gentlemen on the Coast to Coast Network. I think sense of humor is important. I think
Well,
that
not just the humor, just a personality. Let me give you, this is a little TMI, I'm telling you, but I recently started talking to a gentleman that is fine. I mean, he's nice, but what a person looks like is not what it's all about. So it didn't take long for us to fizzle out because I know for me, I need a man that's more than just something pretty to look at. And I would like to think that men want something more than just a pretty, like I want somebody that I can have a conversation with. I want somebody that's going to help me grow. It's going to make me a better person. So it's all about, it's more than just looks. I do believe that when you are comfortable with your looks, it gives you a little bit more confidence. Yes.
I agree. And I think on the flip side, that's exactly, well, it is the same thing. The insecurity can derail you, and it can also make you hesitant to approach someone that you think, may be more attractive than you are. And I think that hinders a lot of people, the self-confidence and who they think, and I don't want to hate to use this term, but I'm going to, who they think may be in their league or not. Because I think the reality is life isn't a game, and we're not in a specific league. I think that give people the benefit of the doubt and trust that people will be interested in you. And if they're not, they're just not your person. So move on. I mean, take a chance. I'm always about taking a chance and a risk in relationships. If you find someone that you like, and I say go for it. Reach out to them, and rejection is rejection is really difficult. But if you are being rejected, the reality is that's not the person for you anyway. So just don't take that to heart. And there are some mean people out there. There are some.
Well, and kind of like rejections also, it teaches you what you don't want in a relationship. You may think you want that person, but when they reject you, there's going to be probably personality traits or behavioral characteristics that you learn that, you know what, I don't want that in my next relationship. So, I've learned that you can learn from a good teacher as well as a bad teacher, and every loss can be a win if you let it. So find the lesson in it, find the obstacle, which is always the lesson, and then just figure out how you can do it differently. So if this relationship didn't work because of one thing or another, you'll be on the watch out for that in the next relationship.
And so I think that you just said something very important when you said find the lesson in it. And Chris, I do want to bring up Justin's one comment about his guidance counselor and what she said about his employment potential. I think that that's very important to bring up. I don't know if you can find that one in all of Justin's comments, but I believe he said that a guidance counselor told him that he would never find a job in the real world. And I think that that's really cruel. Not that one, but the one before that, where he was speaking about the guidance counselor said he wouldn't be employable. Yeah. So I think, teachers told me once I would never get it. So teachers told me once I would never get a job in the real world. And I think that, I don't want to tell Justin's story, but he faces some challenges that not everybody does in the world. But I think that, and Justin and I are very tight, and he really, I gave him some, actually my father did yesterday. We were having a conversation, and my father was in the room, and my father gave Justin some great advice. Justin's goal is to become a baseball coach, and my father said, why don't you reach out, via me? He said, why don't you tell him to reach out to some baseball coaches and ask if you can be an assistant coach. And Justin always takes my advice right on the spot. He reached out to some coaches immediately, and he already has secured a position. So
that's amazing.
So Justin, I want to give Justin a shout out. So next year he's going to be assistant coach for the softball team, and it's more of an internship, but it's you have foot in the door. And I believe that will lead to something more, because Justin is somebody who follows advice. He doesn't hesitate. He jumps right in. He takes risks. And I think that's a lesson for you, Justin, not to believe one teacher, don't believe that person, because first of all, it was professionally irresponsible. As a mentor to young adults, it was not only that, it was totally, not only is it baseless, it's really was something that should have never been said, but it's also a lesson that not every people in positions of power are right. There are a lot of people who've been given, and it makes me think of Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi tells a story about how he approached Bruce Springsteen at a they're both from New Jersey. They were playing a gig, and he asked Bruce Springsteen what he thought of him, and Bruce Springsteen said, "You're probably never going to be successful." And
I didn't know that.
look how that story turned out. And I'm fairly confident. I hate to quote John Bon Jovi, but I'm pretty sure I've read that, because that always stuck with me. And now they're close friends, obviously. And Bruce was wrong. I'm a Bruce Springsteen fan. So
Let me touch on that a little bit. So, first of all, we have a lot of careers today that you can pursue that weren't pursued 20 years ago. Okay. So, a lot of tech jobs, stuff like that. So, when you tell somebody your dream or your vision, you have to keep in mind that they are giving you their opinion based on three things. Okay. Three things. First is their conditioning. What were they told from the ages of 1 to 7? Were they told that was possible? Were they told that was ridiculous? What was their conditioning they were raised in? The second thing is the events in their life and the meanings they have attached to those events, the stories they tell themselves. So were they rejected trying something similar? And then the third thing is what I told you earlier, the goop, the good opinion of other people. So when you tell somebody your dreams, they're just giving you their opinion based on their own vision, their own mindset, their own beliefs. That doesn't mean that is right. So don't, just because they tell you it's not gonna work or you're never going to get a job in the real world doesn't mean they're right. They just means they can't see your vision. That's it. They can't see it. Don't ever take one person's word for it.
no. And always believe in yourself. Your own belief about yourself should always trump anybody else's opinion. Opinions aren't facts. They're opinions. That's why they're called opinions. And they really shouldn't. Somebody gave me some great piece of advice, and they said, don't ever let the opinions of others have power over your life. And I think that that's really important. Because that's, yeah, exactly what you said. They're based on their own perceptions and their own frame of mind. So we're going to just,
what was it? What Jeff Bezos, he told everybody he was going to start a online bookstore, selling online books. And everybody was like, are you crazy? Nobody's going to invest in that. He's the richest man in the world now because of that. So let's not take everybody's advice.
No, let's not. And so I don't want to get too far. Well, we're totally far astray. So this is well, not necessarily. That's we're talking about the loving yourself part and all, and so that leaves us a broad scope. We can speak about relationships. We can speak about body image, and I think that that's the beauty of the show. We just don't want to talk about the physical aspects of it. We really want to be broad based and touch on things that impact your self-esteem and your self-worth and your value. So I don't think we're far off. We're at all, actually, when I think about it. But let's get back to so what's our advice for the people who want to follow the first step of the program? We're just concentrating on the breathing this week. That's all we're going to advise that they do. Maybe that's one piece of it. That's the physical piece of it. But at the same time, maybe they can concentrate on the mindset. Try a morning routine. Try to establish your own morning routine that works for you with some journaling, and we'll pull in two pieces, because the breathing really also ties in with the mindset. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I would say start small, guys. Don't create this morning routine that is going to be, I'm trying to get in front of my computer. It's like weird. Don't create this morning routine that is going to be 6 steps long or 2 hours long. Like, I didn't start off with 2 hours. I started off with something very small, and it just worked its way up because I thoroughly enjoy my routine. I get a lot of motivation. I get a lot of enthusiasm out of it. So, but just start small, something, 2 or 3 minutes of breathing, 5 minutes of breathing, 10 minutes of a walk, or some kind of exercise that gets your heart rate up and releases those endorphins, which is going to affect your mindset. When you release all those feel-good hormones, it will affect your mindset. I promise you that. So yeah, start small, something very small. And then something I do think is powerful, which you do this by listening to a motivational thing. But I would encourage people to read something. And I don't mean read something you're working on that, every day, but read something that is going to fuel your mindset, that is going to give you a positive outlook and a new perspective on how to do things.
I agree. That's good too. The reason that I listen to it, it works for me because I'm walking. Yeah. But I do have read before, when I do that, or even sometimes I'll put on an audio book, which is
I do that too.
Yeah, so that's helpful too. But any of those things work. And something else that works too is music. I mean, music is really something that, you incorporate into your life. So Chris, I'm going to ask you, or Amber, I saw a comment from Tim Fielder. He's another guy who brings a lot of humor into our lives. And so he spoke about his body. I don't want to neglect him. I like to, he measures his body. Which is certainly a good point.
That's a good start.
So you're alive, Tim, if you're in pain in the morning. So that there's always a positive to pain. That's the flip side of it.
Exactly.
So what else do we have in there? Do we have? I know Justin has a lot in there, but can we? Is there anybody else?
I started running 6 miles. Really helped me out. I would not encourage anybody to start with 6 miles. I'm just going to go off a limb here and say don't start with 6 miles. But definitely, if you can take up 6 miles a couple times a week, that's awesome. Running is great. Let me just throw this in there. I mentioned something about getting your heart rate up, so I don't want to confuse people when I say exercise. I do want you to get your heart rate up in some kind of cardiovascular manner. But if we're tracing this all back to looking good naked, what's going to do that is resistance training. Cardio, guys, it will help you lose weight on the scale, but it is not going to give you that physique that you want. I promise you that. It's not going to do it. You will be jiggly and maybe not very happy. So if it comes to that, we definitely want to do resistance. Doesn't have to use weight. You can use body weight, but we just want to create muscle because muscle burns fat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even while you're sleeping.
And we are going to get to that, right? I mean, that's one of the steps. And what is next week? So we're going to concentrate on breathing, hydration. So we're easing into this, and Randy, when you're watching this later, whomever is going to follow the program, we can't get more easing into it than breathing and then some water. So you got
I'm super excited to have Randy on. Yeah.
I know. Well, I know we worked last night, so and he's in the Pacific time zone, but I know he's going to catch us later, and we can even have a meeting with him separately.
Is there a way that I can comment on here? I'm wondering if I can put that link. I'll figure that out for before next session.
You can just put it into the Facebook comments,
right? Okay, I'll do that.
Facebook comments, and then we're going to try to share the show as well as we go along. So. We're getting down to the final minutes of the show. Do we have any? Let's take a peek. Do we have any? I'll peek in there too. Do we have any final comments? And then, so it's Ace. So Ace, you're out there running 6 miles. That's really impressive. Jason,
I do not envy you, Ace. I'm just gonna lie. I hate to run. I utterly hate to run. And it will not. In fact, it goes back to my cheerleading days. So whenever we would get in trouble, we were disciplined by having to run. So I associate running with like all things bad. So I'm proud of you, Ace.
Yeah, I think running is very difficult. I think it's effective in exactly what you said. But I think too, oftentimes, I think it's great at building muscle when you're already in a slender frame, and Ace is pretty slender. I think that, and I don't mean slender, but in a thinner body. But when you're trying to lose weight, you're exactly right. Running is not, it's going to lose fat, but it's not going to build much muscle, particularly in your upper body. So that's something to be mindful of. But 6 miles, yeah, I think it's tough on the knees. Eventually, running, yeah, I don't enjoy it either. I can do a mile, maybe 2, or maybe 3 or 4. The most I used to run 5 miles, and really past that point, it's really, there's no pleasure in it. So
when I hear people talk about doing marathons, I'm like, why exactly would you do that? I mean, why would you run that many miles? But okay, whatever makes you happy.
And it's really, my father has has run in many marathons. He at one point in his life he was trying to get me to go out there with him, and it just this
I'll
wasn't
meet you at the finish line, babe.
I'll stand on the side and hand you
I'll hold a sign for you.
And I used to run the 5Ks with them. I think the good thing about running, if you are interested in running and if somebody's interested, starting with a 5K, just because you have so much support, the running community is this tight-knit group, and they just are so supportive of one another. It's really its own phenomenon in many ways, and it's really a national movement. That community is awesome. So even if you want to walk a 5K, they're very supportive of that. There's fans, there are people on the sidelines cheering you the whole way, even if you're a walker. And I think that if you need someone who needs support in an exercise endeavor, that is something to be said.
I think that's at the core. I've never been a marathon runner or participated necessarily in those events, but I believe that community is at the core as to why they even put those events on, which is our last step. So we'll get to it in a couple of weeks. But community is huge, guys. You can't do any major endeavor on your own. You need support. You really do.
Really, and that's true of life. I mean, I was speaking to somebody this week who made a great point, and he said that humans aren't meant to be alone. We aren't meant to.
We're social creatures.
Yeah, and I think that's that you really need your own network and your own community, and that's why I'm so grateful, in particular, to the Coast to Coast community. I'm blessed to be part of many different communities. We have the Forbes Riley community, we have this community, but I think that those are life-changing experiences when you have separate groups of friendships.
And all right, so all the platforms that we have today, now we have the ability to we don't have to have local friends. We can make friends all over the world now.
That's true. So I think great. I think we're almost to the end of our time.
It looks like Tim is going to take Ace up on his challenge of running 6 miles.
Right. And Tim can do it. We could have our own. I will take you up on the challenge. I'll walk 6 miles.
Yeah, I'm still going to leave from the sidelines.
I do enjoy walking, and I'm actually coast to coast on location again. I'm down here at the beach again, and I have been walking 5 miles every day, so I do enjoy that. But that's the best I can do. I told Tim Fielder I was going to get back into running a little bit, but I'm not taking on the 6 mile challenge. I'm going to be maybe at the 3 mile challenge. I'm going to work up to that. Yeah. All right, so great. I'm going to let you close it out, Amber. You're the star of this one.
Well, thank you guys for coming. I hope you come back next week. We will be covering all 7 steps. So next week is hydration, which is critical, super important. Nothing else works if you're not putting hydration water in your body. So tune in. Thank you, Joanne, for having me here, and we'll see you guys next week.
Oh, and I am gonna close out one other thing. Thanks, Chris. Chris is the man behind the scenes, and he's always our rock in our core. Sometimes he's in front of the camera, but when he's behind the camera, there's no better support than Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, and I'm going to shout out his new name. He's actually going by Chris P. Bacon now. So I love that. It's Chris is his first name, then he's got the middle initial P, and then it's Bacon. That's his new So that's a lot of fun. I like that one.
Self. Okay.
So Crispy Bacon, take us out. I don't know, Crispy Bacon.